Trustee Milani.
Here and calling in due to work travel.
Trustee Compass.
Here.
Trustee Reardon. Trustee Radoszewski. Mayor Peacock.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the July 5th, 2022 Committee of the Whole minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Katsinas.
I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Committee of the Whole for July 5th, 2022.
Second. Call the roll.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Milani.
Aye.
Mayor Peacock.
Aye.
Waterford Pointe development petition for a special use permit for a planned development with modifications from the Land Development Code, a special use permit for disturbance of a non-tidal wetland, site plan, landscape plan, elevations, and subdivision.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Healy.
regarding case number 2021-0140, also known as Waterford Pointe, I move to recommend to the Village Board to approve the Plan Commission recommended action, which is fully referenced below, accepting Condition 7, which was completed prior to this meeting.
Second.
I'd like to turn it over to staff for a presentation.
Mr. Mayor, it is going to be our practice moving forward that the petitioner will be presenting their own case.
Okay.
And so we have the petitioner's attorney here. If you can just introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, trustees, or good evening, actually. My name is Patrick Wojtek. I'm an attorney with Sasson, Arnold, and Schoenbeck. And I'm going to give you a little presentation here that we turned in earlier to the staff. Can everyone hear me okay?
Okay.
All right. So this is Waterford Pointe. What we're looking for is a special use development, a planned development with modification, special use development of non-tidal wetland, site approval, and approval of multifamily elevation. There we go. With me tonight are Sean Dudek, our engineer, Mr. Donald Jeans, the developer, and I already introduced myself. So this is a Google Maps overview. You can see down there, like the center lower part of the map there, we currently have two parcels. Parcel 1 here is on the east side. Parcel 2 is on the west. This is 153rd, and this is Wolf Road. And we have some photographs to show you. This is taken at about just north of the intersection of 153rd and Wolf. And so these are the trees along the western edge of the property. You can see all the developed trees there. And you can see the telephone wires and poles in place. Now this is on the north side of the property, looking directly south. That's those same row of trees on the west side and Wolf Road. This is taken from 153rd, looking northwest across the current state of the property. This is an example along the north and west side of the property of stormwater retention, and just to see its current state, it's something we may have to deal with. We'll get to that in a minute. There's a drainage culvert here. This is again at the very northwestern part of the property, and that truck there is parked out on Wolf Road. And this is standing roughly in the northwest part of the property, looking east, southeast across the current farmland that's there. We did have to submit, as requested by staff, we submitted 4 different elevations. So on the east side of the property, we're going to have single-family homes. On the southwest part of the property, they're going to be attached single-family homes, so duplexes. So these are the 4 different elevations and different design patterns, colors, brickwork that were submitted. So here is our current site plan. And what I have highlighted here, I'll get into a little bit more in a minute, but you can see all of the single-family home lots here, ends in a cul-de-sac at the northeast part of the property. And then this road here that goes through the center here, these are all of our attached units. And I'll get a little bit more into it in a minute, but this blue highlighted line is an internal path, and it cuts in between these two lots here, give access to the road. Here is another internal path that links the end of this cul-de-sac here to a path on Wolf Road. And the current plan does have a path along Wolf and a path along 153rd. We'd be putting in a signal button here that would allow residents, walkers, bike riders to use the current crosswalk here and crosswalk here to access two current paths that are already in existence. There's one here on the west side of Wolf Road that runs all the way up to 151st, runs out from there to Woolcook Road. And there's an existing path here. This is north of the church property here, and that runs all the way down towards the east to Centennial Park and beyond. So here are some of the property improvements as we've been proposing them, approved by staff. There's going to be a passive recreational area that surrounds the pond on the north side. We're going to be installing 2 benches and pergolas, installation of non-standard street lights, decorative. The open space that we have proposed exceeds the required minimum. The duplexes have side load garages on 50% of them. There's increased rear yard setbacks, especially along that western boundary with Wolf Road, from the current 30 to 45 feet. And as mentioned, it was a total of open space, 10% more than required, 25%, and increased cul-de-sac sizes, so they're bigger, allow easier flow of traffic. So I just want to. And this was prepared by David Sossin, who could not make it tonight. I wanted to go back to the site plan. Yep, there you go. Okay, so our main concern tonight is the changes that we've received from the planners and engineers, especially as they relate to these various pathways. These changes have not been in accordance with what we've experienced over the years. The past policies and procedures seem to be somewhat haphazard, but we've been dealing with it. We would rather have the paths be more in conformity and continuity with what the village already has. So for instance, along 153rd and along Wolf Road, you already have paths on the other side of the street, and in most areas across the village, there aren't paths running on both sides of the street. It's either one side or the other. We think that this is going to be more desirable to the future residents of this area to have just actually a single path here on 153rd. This would be our preference. So the residents already will have, in terms of bicycle use, they'll have their street, of course, to get out to this path. There's sidewalks that run throughout in front of everyone's home throughout the entire development. So in terms of a walking path, they already have access to this path here that just runs a short distance along 153rd. Again, gets them access right over here to either head to the north on Wolf or to the east over there. This path here along Wolf Road really does not make much common sense. You saw in the photograph of all of the good developed trees that are along here. They already provide a good natural buffer to this neighborhood, and we would have to deal with not only taking out all of those trees, we'd have to deal with all of the light poles and power lines that are there. You saw the stormwater drain and the culvert that are up here to the north of the property, and this is really a path that goes nowhere, right? It would dead end here. It has to stop before this driveway and gets into the fire department that's up here. So it just does not make sense to have that along here. So that's the first major concern that we have with this current plan. Second major concern is this internal path. Again, it doesn't really appear to be necessary and really going to be beneficial, especially in regards to this cut out here, going in between two of the houses here and going in between two of the houses over here. So we went to the Plan Commission a couple of weeks ago. It was passed by 3-2, which brings us to here tonight. I think part of the problem last time was that the two members of the Plan Commission who voted negatively had said they had just received the information that day. They didn't have time to look at it versus them having any issue with the overall plan. So at this point in time and just open up to any questions. And again, I have Mr. Jeans here to answer any questions, as well as our engineer.
Any questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Healy?
Did you say that there's a bike path on the west side of Wolf Road?
Yes, there is. There's currently one already there. It extends all the way up to 151st and then directly west from there.
Okay, and I just don't know if there's a concern with, and my second thing is there's concern for me with the bike path ending at the fire department. I mean, that seems dangerous.
Our concern as well.
And the other day, I was out at a constituent who had a problem along Wolf Road, and there was a sidewalk behind his house that's just overgrown with vegetation. This was done before it was annexed into Orland Park, but it's a sidewalk that goes nowhere, and nobody uses it, and it's overgrown. I mean,
Right.
if there's no practical use, or it's not going to get much use, I don't see the need for that section.
And again, the trees are very nicely developed along almost this entire stretch here. Again, it provides a natural buffer to especially these residents that live all in this area here, where they won't have, there's a lot of traffic on Wolf Road. Wolf Road may be expanded into the future too, which also would impact this, probably would eliminate that in the future. So we'd be required to build something now that if there is an expansion in the future or widening of the road, and it's just got to come out.
Over 10 years, right?
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Campos?
So it's not usual for our Plan Commission to come with a split vote. Not that I don't think that that's any fault of the petitioner. I think you're right. I did listen to all 2 hours of the meeting and reviewed the minutes. The paths did come up, commissioners asked, and I think there was an answer from staff, so I'm just looking to staff if you guys could fill in some of the blanks as to why the paths were there, because right now I am inclined to agree.
So, Trustee Campos, that there is a effort on the village part to create a multi-purpose, multi-use path throughout the village, and this is our common practice that as a development comes, we extend it till the end of the property. When the next development comes, we extend it further beyond. So that is the intent of the path as a multi-purpose path. It's not a sidewalk. The sidewalks are typically 5 feet wide. We have made a concentrated effort to make wherever appropriate, 8 feet wide, which is multi-purpose. It allows bicycles as well as pedestrians to use it. So that is our intent. The other part is that the trees that are mentioned in this presentation, those are not trees that we generally like to maintain or to keep them. They're not good quality trees that we would be maintaining. In reality, we would want to replace those trees if that's what it is.
And Krishid, maybe you can also mention about the blue path that was as part of the road extension.
When this project originally came to review, there was a path that we were connecting further south of the cul-de-sac. But because of the location with the intersection, we agreed with the developer that it would not be the best use or best practice for us to have it there. So we agreed that we will give up that, but we will ask the developer that they will connect the blue path, which also circulates around the pond, which we would like in most of our developments. Now we want that to be an amenity, a feature, not just a pond that is just sitting there and have no use other than just a stormwater. So that is our future plans. Existing and future plans is to have paths around the water features, which is part of the stormwater, but also acts as an amenity for the residents, for whether they live there or they're from outside. They all want to have a benefit out of it.
So I think I also heard that path around the detention area could be used as a maintenance path or maintenance access. Is that correct?
That's true.
You know what, it's the speaker, so maybe just twist it or move it, yeah. No.
Okay. Yes, there does need to be access to provide maintenance to that path. The blue path was also in compensation, or to account for the fact that the variances that their cul-de-sacs are significantly beyond what we allow for a dead-end street. We were not making them connect to the adjacent subdivisions. We were not making them go out to Wolf Road. And in exchange for that, they would provide certain amenities in order to get modifications to the village code. This blue path is the one of the modifications that are required for us to have supported the variance of providing cul-de-sacs that were too long and not connected to the neighboring neighborhoods.
Can you show me the satellite overhead? Can you blow that up so that we can see just north of the lot? That's not a very good picture.
It's a little bright in here.
What's north of that lot? Is that wetland or is that developable land just north?
North of the fire station?
It's developable. There's some flood something, but then north of that is also developable. As a matter of fact, the original development that included this parcel was a larger subdivision that went to the north with a bridge that went over. It was approved in the 90s, I think. A bridge that went over the creek, and there was a pathway system in that plan that the board previously approved.
And then, Mayor, also as you would know, the anticipated construction timeline for Wolf Road is 15 to 20 years down the road. We're not anticipating the Wolf Road will be expanded. I can assure you, just the design, even if we get the funds today, it will take 10 years for us to design it.
And if we don't put it, if the developer doesn't put it in now, then whose responsibility is to put it when it's time to put the connection in, so people are safely being able to walk or ride a bike?
Well, we already have a path going on the other side to 151st, correct?
Is that a bicycle path? There's sidewalks here.
It's a multi-path.
No, it's a path.
On the
It's a
west
path.
side of Wolf,
I walked it.
not on the south.
Spring Creek has a path, correct?
The south of 153rd is a sidewalk, the west of Wolf Road is a bike path.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, the one on 153rd on the south side is a multi-use path.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the one on Wolf Road on the west side between 151st and 153rd is what?
That's also a multi-use path.
Okay.
And then just one more
And-
clarification, the pond is not a pond, it's just a detention area, right? So it's just going to be grass and weeds, it's not.
Well, it better not be just grassy weeds.
Well, no,
because,
grass,
we
but it's-
we want it to stay maintained.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't want to be down in that,
And there's
in that realm again.
part wetlands.
We don't allow dry hops.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Chairman?
Tim?
Who owns that wetland and that pond? Is it the village or
No,
the?
it's the HOA.
The HOA.
It's in here, it'll be the HOA that owns that. Well, regarding the trees, all the trees along here are scrubs and invasive. So those trees, in my opinion, need to go. Otherwise, we'd require you to do a tree survey and mitigate them and pay for all of the mitigation things. So the trees need to be cleaned up because they're all weeds. Being pretty familiar with that area, so that's pretty common. They have to clean that up. Regarding the pass, any other questions on that?
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Milani.
Yeah, looking at the one on 153rd, if we decided to put that there and it was going to extend to the east, wouldn't that eventually go across unincorporated property and we wouldn't be able to extend it anyway?
$153rd to the east?
Yes.
Currently, that is unincorporated, and I believe it was part of the annexation study that you guys had looked at.
But it's still currently unincorporated.
That is correct.
Okay, and yeah, the one on West Avenue, or on the west, going down Wolf Road, it really doesn't make much sense if we have one across the street, and that small area going from Wolf Road to the first cul-de-sac, that going through somebody's backyard basically on a walking path just doesn't seem conducive, like people would actually use that for anything. And are there other areas too where walking paths have just like yield for pedestrian signs and people, walk with care across there?
Trustee Milani, you're talking about mid-block crossings?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're not common, that's all I would say.
Yeah, they're not common, and this isn't going to be a very high-traffic subdivision.
Sure. Okay, those were just my comments. Thank you.
Any other comments? So go back to the one with the paths, please. Okay, so my comments on this, on Wolf Road, so we know that Wolf Road, I understand it's going to be a while, but we know it's eventually going to get widened. And when it gets widened, it's going to probably take this path out as part of it, and we're going to redo all of that, correct? Correct. So I don't see a whole lot of sense of making someone put something in that's going to get taken back out. It'd be different if we had, anticipate projects going up and down this corridor right now, which we don't. And also, there also is access to the rest of our paths, because if we keep the one along 153rd, there's a crosswalk that goes across Wolf Road. They're going to go across Wolf Road and can stay on the path on Wolf Road and then hit the paths going down 151st Street, correct? The other side, both sides of the street, there's no paths, correct? As I recall, there's a sidewalk for part of it, but then it ends on, when I'm thinking north of 151st.
Way up there.
By where the church is.
Yeah, it ends at the church.
It ends just past the church. So there's nothing on either side of the street. So, and both of those, when we do widen it, they're going to get redone just like 159th. Now, to the petitioner's thing, we do have them on both sides of the street. All of the new roads that are coming in do have them on both sides of the street, but this is a IDOT road, and they're going to do what they're going to do on that. So I don't see a point in making someone do the one on Wolf Road. I do see a point in removing all those trees and all that scrub, because they are developing the property, and we don't want to leave that up. But frankly, I'm guessing the homeowners aren't going to really want to look at that crap either, because ultimately they'll be responsible for having to have all that stuff removed. The one along 153rd, that's a different story, because that's not a road that's planned to be widened. So I think leaving that path in there makes sense when developments in the unincorporated area gets redeveloped, which probably will happen at some point. They'll add that path, or potentially when Cook County comes in to work on that road, they'll add that path, because every time they work on a road now, they add the appropriate paths. So that one makes more sense to me. Plus, it gives all those homeowners an access to the bike path system, correct? Because they can cross both at 100. They can cross at 153rd and Wolf and catch all of our path system, correct? Is that correct? Okay. Then the access point going to Wolf Road, I don't think that's a necessity. The only people that are going to be inconvenienced by not having that are the homeowners in this subdivision. No one else is going to be cutting through that. Regarding and this is just my opinion, regarding the stormwater management area and the paths around that, it's not a park. It's one thing where we did it at Stellwagen Farm, we put a path all the way around it, but that's a park, village property in a park. So I'm not sure why, where that makes sense. Now, the concerns I have, though, I have two concerns, because we're not connecting these cul-de-sacs. The concerns I have is in the future, pedestrian access going north You know, if you go back and look at the map, so pedestrian access going north off of 1 and off of 2, and going into other amenities that might be put into those other subdivisions, which are, amenities are never for the subdivision, they're always for the entire community. So a good example is where I live, we have a walking path through, now there's a train station there, so we go through the train station. There's not a train station in this case, but there are paths like where Trustee Compass lives to get over to the park, right? So since we're not requiring access with the road, and if we weren't requiring access, you know, something around a detention pond, which to me doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense, and around, it's one thing where Trustee Compass is, where it's around all of Stellwagen Farm, right? That's a huge park. This isn't a park, this is just a detention pond. And, you know, I think of Mallard Landings and all these other places, we don't have walking paths around that. But what I would think would make sense is some kind of a path, it's more of a future connection, but how are we going to connect to those future properties that we have? So people have access via bike or pedestrian, so they don't have to go onto Wolf Road. Does that make sense? I'm not hearing any responses, so.
Can you go back to the, and maybe, can Mayor, if it's all right if we give you the laser?
Yeah, give me the laser. So the normal subdivision, all right. So in a normal subdivision, we would require connections here, right? And we would basically block those connections off, correct? They'd go to nowhere right now. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, there will be, the right-of-way for 151st Street is going to be there. To the east, there are additional houses that have a parallel driveway to the street right now, because it's not fully developed, that are actually in town that don't access the undeveloped 151st Street. But we are requiring that the 151st Street right-of-way be part of the subdivision. There's also access at 150.
We're requiring that 151st Street what?
The right-of-way will be part of the subdivision, although we are not requiring installation at this time. So that's for a future east-west connection. But you are correct, there is no access to the north. Again, in the original plan from the 90s, the pathway system, which was very similar to the location where it is now, continued over the creek, over a bridge, into the other part of the subdivision that was to the north.
Okay. Now, okay, so that answers that one. Then we got this one here down to the south. Now we got the fire stations here.
Yes, and then north of that is developable land.
And what's here?
That's the wetland, or the flood area.
So that's floodplain wetland, nothing can happen. So it doesn't make any sense to connect anything there, but it would make sense to me to have some kind of a connection here, a pedestrian pathway for the future for that right-of-way, because otherwise we're going to have to come back and take this land, and we're going to have to do that and connect that up, right? Or leave something dead here, and because there may very well be amenities all up in here.
In the future, yeah, we don't know yet.
Correct. And we could have, but we did not make them connect this. So typically, we wouldn't allow the cul-de-sac here. We would come up here and connect it to the 151st right away, correct?
Correct. And it
would be a dead end right now.
A dead end, or could make them build the street off-site if we wanted, but yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to do that because we don't know if 151st will ever actually go through. Correct?
Correct.
We don't even know if that's in our long-term plans. It may, but it may not.
Correct.
But regardless, there's going to be development up here to the north of 151st at some point in the future, yes. Right? At some point in the future, we could have parks here, we could have who knows what, where we want the kids and whatever to have access through here, not being on a major road, even if this gets widened and it's safer, you're still, you know, if you have kids or something like that, you're going to want them to go through that way. You're not going to want them to be on the major highway. So, me personally, I don't see a need for that, but I do see something like this to be something we could throw into here for the future, because if you don't do it now, you won't have it for the future. And a good example is Colette Highlands, where we have that. And how long did it take for those townhomes to be developed? It took a long time, but now we have that connection between there. as opposed to having to walk around the whole subdivision to get through to the park and the amenities and all that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there isn't one more additional north-south connection. On the path, and it was, staff's thinking was because they did not, our position was that you make additional amenities for the neighbor or for the people, or you connect the streets. And that's what we had initially agreed to when they came back.
But what are the amenities here, though?
It's just some place to walk your dog that isn't necessarily in someone's parkway, or go for a small walk. The people to the east actually wanted to make sure that the 152nd Street stayed open, not through, but they can walk through it, so they could go for a walk through this, just go for a walk, have some place to walk.
The people over here in unincorporated areas, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, most
people
of the,
who didn't buy this property and didn't do anything to develop it.
But they were concerned about making sure that
I've been down this path before. We like to walk our dogs in people's private properties. Well, tough toodles. I mean, you could have bought it and turned it into a park if you wanted to do that, right? So, I mean, to me, this one's a no-brainer. We're going to widen this road, and that's going to go away. And right now, it's a path to nowhere, and we have an access to get to our entire bike path. So there's no loss to having this or this.
So we would put a regular sidewalk in, not the multi, because that's what the code would normally require.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I suppose we could put a regular sidewalk in here, which is much less expensive than a multi-use path. But I don't even know why we need a sidewalk here. To be honest, and what's a walkway to nowhere?
Again, if the property to the north develops, and then the only part that's missing is on the fire station, then we would have a walkway to somewhere.
But I'll get back to the fact that it's a state highway, and the state highway plans talk about blowing that whole thing up, correct?
Sorry.
It does, but they also consider what's out there, what will be there, so that then when they come back, they can replace it. If you don't have it, they have no consideration for that.
What do you mean? They're building complete roads, correct?
They will build complete road, but
Which
if you have existing...
Which means they're going to blow up the sidewalk, and they're going to put up a multi-use path. Right?
So,
just like 159th Street, we have a bike path.
So IDOT has one of these that they look at what was there before so that they can, even if they're widening it, they still put that back in. If there's not there, there's not a consideration for that. If it's a need there, then they'll add that. But if it's not existing facility, they try to replace what's out there, even when they widen the roadway.
Okay, I'm going to get back to when they widen this road. Okay, where are they going to go with it?
It's widening on both sides.
Okay, so are they going to tear this up?
Yes, they will.
Okay, 159th Street didn't have bike path along either side. It does now, right?
Yes.
So isn't that the same thing? They're building complete roads now? They're building those multi-use paths everywhere next to the roads?
So they look, because on 159 Mayor is connecting to 104, that's our path that is there. So it's like they're connecting to an existing facility that we are building with county's help or on a county property. So that's what they're connecting to. That they're not adding, or they will not be adding bike paths on every roadway project. They generally replace, if there is an existing facility, then they'll replace that even in the widened scenario. Or if there is a connection that is missing, then they'll add that as a connection. What I'm trying to say, Mayor, is that the IDOT does look at what is the existing facility out there. They want to replace that if it's existing. If it's not, then they'll look for the need. If there is a need for it, then they'll add the need.
Hasn't this been engineered?
The Wolf Road?
Yeah. I know it's expired, but hasn't it been engineered?
This part, the phase one of this part has been in place.
Okay, so what does it show?
It does show a path there.
Okay, so it shows a bike path there, so it's already planned to have a bike path there, correct?
But it has not been approved by IDOT yet.
Well, yeah, I know, a lot of stuff hasn't been approved by IDOT yet, but it's phase one engineered. Are they going to go back and repay for the entire phase one engineering?
Probably not.
Okay, so it's engineered to have a bike path in there, right? So I don't see the sense in paying
Sure.
for it twice.
I agree with you.
That's my point. I mean, we're trying to get, new housing stock in town, and we're trying to work with developers, and I don't want them to have to pay for stuff twice.
Okay.
Because I don't think that makes a hell of a lot of sense.
Okay.
That's something IDOT does, right? They pay for stuff twice, like 159th Street. You're seeing it right now, right? It's not something the Village of Orland does, right? We routinely don't do something and then wait 2 years to do it because, for example, El Camino, right? We're going to wait to do all of the sewer work before we do the road work. We're going to make sure the sewer work's done first. Even though it was ready for roads, we waited because we didn't want to do it twice. Wheeler Drive with the water main project, right?
That's true.
We delayed doing Wheeler Drive. We did a 1-inch overlay to get us through because the common sense thing here is to wait and not double the money. Just because we're not paying for it doesn't make it not wasteful. I guess that's my philosophy on it. So, but again, I look at here, there's potential that you're going to need a connection in the future. That's a problem if we don't have that, because now you've got these subdivisions that aren't connected in any way whatsoever. Now someone's got to go all the way around. Even in your existing plan, they got to go all the way around. They're halfway around, right? I don't think that makes a lot of sense. Then I guess the open question for me is here, but I'd like to hear what the other trustees think.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Katsinas.
when I see that blue line going behind townhouses and single-family, I kind of think it's makes those properties a little less valuable that you're having people walking in your backyard when you want privacy. And, what about people that come with fishing poles or do that? I think it's an intrusion on those people that back up to the pond to have a walkway there, unless there's a park or a golf course. That's my opinion.
I don't disagree. Any other trustees have an opinion?
I agree with Cindy on that point, and I'm just, the bike path on Wolf Road doesn't make any sense, I agree. And I think it makes a lot of sense.
I believe it makes sense. I believe it makes sense to be done at one time with the road, not done and then redone.
Okay, granted. And I do agree that the connecting that to the subdivision north is, it would make sense. As well as that, did you point out a path at the bottom there that connects that's not highlighted?
That's to go to the pond and to another path. I don't think if we're getting rid of this path, that makes no sense. And as far as access to maintain that, there are easements. There's going to be easements on some properties where people have access. That's pretty common to have easements to go through, and that's where the landscapers and all that are going to have to go through, is through those easements. Is that not correct? Pretty common?
There will need to be access to provide maintenance to the facility.
And so we have easements that provide that access, correct?
Well, that depends. Yeah, you're saying don't put the path in, but leave.
Let me put
leave
this in. Put this in
just
simpler.
asking for clarification. So you're saying to keep where the path would be, but not build the path so that they have access to maintain the pond.
Yeah, I think if you keep that open as an easement where we have to have access, I think that makes sense, because you have to access the pond and also the wetland areas to maintain them. But you don't have to have a paved path to do that. I agree with Trustee Katsinas that it's a privacy issue. It makes the lots not as we even hear it over in your subdivision, Sean, I think, with people with walking by there. I know you appreciate the fact that you look at that and you're okay with that, right? But others, that's a deterrent.
We learn to appreciate it.
So, and again, that's a how many acre park is that? 40 acres or something like that? That's a big 40-acre park and field that we have, 2 mile, and it's all, the path is around our entire park. And this is just a detention area, and I don't know that we want to get in the habit of doing paths around detention areas.
Just Mayor, one thing about the smaller or the shorter blue path. If we don't have that, those residents will have a much longer walk to get to the 153rd and Wolf Road intersection. That's the only way for them, is to go all the way east.
So they have to walk a block So I have that right now off of 100, off of 108th and the like, we have the same thing. So the people that live along the back there can certainly walk across if they want. You're talking about, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11
Right.
buildings that have to walk an extra block to get around to Wolf Road. Or if someone doesn't have a fence, they walk through their backyard and they walk through their neighbor's backyard like most people do. I just don't see the need for a path there. And again, if you're riding your bike, it's an extra block to get around and get onto the path.
So just to summarize, everything blue now gone. There will be a new blue north from that cul-de-sac to the easement, and then Wolf Road. We will eliminate that multi-use path, but the trees do need to be cleaned up and replaced, and then the 153rd multi-use path stays.
Correct. I think that summarizes it. At least my perspective. I don't know what the board feels. I agree.
The sidewalk on Wolf?
What's that?
Sidewalk on Wolf per code?
I don't think because we're going to have to blow that up anyways, and you just told me it was part of the plan. So it's part of the Wolf Road plan.
We didn't ask for, they didn't ask for relief to put nothing there.
What's that?
That would have been a modification to the village code that didn't go through the public hearing, to put nothing there. The code would still require that adjacent right-of-way.
So Dennis, the question is, that was not part of the public hearing or the part of the plan commission. Can that be amended at this point? Can it be amended in an ordinance? Does it have to go back?
I think it's going to have to go back.
So I guess I would leave that then to the petitioner. Do they want to put a sidewalk in there? Or do they want to go back to the planning commission on that piece of it? That's up to you. I mean, we can send it back, or we can modify this to be a sidewalk as opposed to a multi-use path. I mean, that's a legal requirement, so we have to know what you want us to do.
Yeah, understood. I think the feeling at the moment is probably we'll have to go back then.
Okay. So I will entertain a motion to amend the approved plan to eliminate the walking path to the north of the subdivision between the cul-de-sac and Wolf Road, also to remove the path between the cul-de-sac, the southern cul-de-sac and Wolf Road, the short path between buildings, and also to eliminate the Wolf Road path because in the future there's a planned path to be paid for by IDOT, and then to add a path from the north cul-de-sac to the north to the 151st Street roadway easement for future pedestrian access.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments on that amendment? Call the roll on the amendment.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, can we just ask Dennis, at this point, should they go through with the vote or should they refer it back?
If the preference of the petitioner is to go back through the process with the planning commission, I think you refer it back to them, go through that process, and it comes back to this committee.
Because it'll save them the need to have to republish and everything, right?
Correct.
If we set to a date certain tonight, right? So we have to set it to a specific date?
When's the next planning commission?
Tomorrow.
It's tomorrow, yeah. It would be the first, second?
Second?
But we just posted the cancellation of that meeting because there was nothing on it, so the 15th would be the next one. I mean, I guess we could I don't know how to undo we just...
You can repost it up to 72 hours prior, right? You can post a meeting.
We wouldn't need to publish, we wouldn't need to do any kind of personal notice, I'm assuming, if we referred to a date certain.
Yeah, well, I'll have to look at that. I don't have an answer off the top of my head.
I just have to just double check because we just told the
Yeah.
commissioners that they don't have to be there. We have to just make sure that we have a quorum.
And maybe the petitioners want to just get some type of approval tonight and then have to republish and start the process again
Well,
just for
the
that.
republishing is a lot longer process, correct?
The earliest we'd be able to do that would be it would be a very tight turnaround for the 15th. So it would probably be the first meeting in September.
Plus, Mayor, the petitioner has to do some work in terms of the new connection that you're talking about, so there's some.
Well, we can condition it on that, right? We don't have to have final engineering plans for a sidewalk between the houses. Condition it on that.
Our preference would be for no earlier than August 15th, just because of the turnaround time. What else we have in the pipe, because we have a lot of
What
other
I would do is
cases that
entertain
are-
how long will it take you to look at it, to see what you need? How long will it take you to,
I'll find out.
like if I recess for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, would you be able to answer that?
Probably.
I'll entertain a motion to recess.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Mayor Pika.
Aye. Going to recess, we'll, 5 minutes till is when we'll go back in and we'll let the attorney review this.
Here?
Trustee Katsinas.
Here.
Trustee Malani.
Here.
Trustee Compass.
Aye, here.
Mayor Pika.
Here. I'll entertain a motion to table the Waterford Pointe so we can move on with the meeting till we can get a couple answers and
So moved.
Second.
call the roll.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Mayor Pika.
Aye. Motion is tabled.
Amendments to Chapter 3 to 6 Tree Management Program Ordinance.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Compass.
move to recommend adopting an ordinance entitled, an ordinance amending Title 3, Public Ways and Properties, Chapter 6, Tree Management Program of the Orland Park Village Code.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Compass.
just a small note, I know I already mentioned it to George, but in the new amended version where it is in 362-B, there's a reference to a board in the very beginning that later says that board presents to the Board of Trustees. So I think there's a little bit of ambiguity as to what that board represents. I think, based off the reading, it's the Rec Advisory Board plus the forester, but I just want to make certain of that. So if we need to amend or move to get some clarity on that. Sorry, so if you look at section 362B, it starts off more specifically, it shall be the responsibility of the board to study, investigate, but then later says that this is presented to the Board of Trustees. So I just want clarity as to which board that means.
Yes,
So then I would,
Why would the Rec Advisory Board have anything to do with trees?
Just because, just those that are obviously within the park limits.
so 362A mentions the Rec Advisory Board in conjunction with the forester.
Yeah, because A mentions the Rec Advisory Board as well.
But, so I guess I would have a problem with why is the Rec Advisory Board, because forestry is way more than just our parks,
Agreed.
True.
right?
Yes, it's parkways and right-of-ways.
I mean, they recommend our parks. They're not going to know anything about trees. None of them have expertise on trees.
Okay.
So they'll recommend our park plan. So I would say, I would strike anything referencing the Village of Recreation Advisory Board and just say the village forester shall be responsible, right?
Correct.
Doesn't that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good catch. So any other comments? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to strike in the updated ordinance, strike any references to the Rec Advisory Board, and it should be the village forester that is responsible for making recommendations to the village president and the village board.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll on the amendment.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye. And call the roll on the amended motion.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Fiscal year 2022 budget amendment number 6 approval.
Before we do that, I'll entertain a motion to remove from the table.
So moved.
Second.
So there's a potential solution, and I don't know, we haven't had a chance to discuss, but the potential solution may be approve all the items, approve it tonight, and then they would come back with an amended request just for the sidewalk. They can go through the whole process again. And there's no time crunch at that, I don't think at that point.
Okay, because the sidewalk is a next year thing anyways, correct? So you would have time to address that issue. Okay. Does that work? Does that work? Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to amend to replace or revise the previous amendment to instead of removing the multi-use path on Wolf Road, to turn that into a sidewalk on Wolf Road.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye. The question is put as amended twice. Call the roll.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye. So just to be clear, what we have approved is that we want a new path to the north for a future connection to 151st that will potentially happen in the future. We're eliminating the interior walkway around the detention area, removing the western little path that goes to Wolf Road, and then changing the multi-use path to the sidewalk, and then it's up to the petitioner to repetition to get that removed. Is that correct? Correct. So just, that's the summary. So it's approved.
Thank you.
Okay.
Fiscal year 2022 budget amendment number 6 approval.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Katsinas.
I move to recommend an increase in the general fund expenditure budget in the amount of $42,607 as detailed in fiscal year 2022 amendment number 6.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
An ordinance amending Appendices A and B to ordinance number 5676, Fifth Amendment.
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Compass.
Move to recommend adopting an ordinance entitled Ordinance Amending Appendices A and B to Ordinance Number 5676, Fifth Amendment.
Second.
Any comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Any non-scheduled citizens or visitors?
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Compass.
Move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned, and we'll start at 7:20 with the regular board meeting.